Murray Thom, welcome to Between Two Beers.
I could not be happier to be here.
We are so excited to have you in. You came highly recommended to us by a very trusted source. And my phone call with you last week made me laugh. Do you remember what you said?
No.
You said 90 minutes seems like a bit long. Can we make it shorter so the audience is more engaged? And that was funny to me because your life story has enough chapters to go 6 hours, and you may be the most engaging bloke I think we've had on here.
Early days, but
well, even before we recorded, you've captured our imagination, so it bodes well.
Well, thanks, guys. I'm thrilled to be here. We're going to have a great time together.
Undoubtedly. We're going to get into all the detail of your life and career, but today, aged 67?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ageist?
Yeah.
Pretty early on the ageist remarks.
Yeah, he's really gone.
God, okay.
It's terrible to out someone's age. You've got to let them out their own age.
Apologies in advance. What is life like? I'd heard a recent interview where you'd suggested you were just getting started. Is that how you feel?
Definitely. I mean, my wife and I discuss retirement only in the way that I'm never retiring. Life for all of us goes very, very fast, but there is so much wonderful work still to be done. I feel highly energized. If ever I want a happy thought, I think about my future. That's where I get my inspiration from. That's the fuel that keeps me going. So a lot of great work still to be done, I hope.
So take us to current day Murray. What is life? What is your week? What does your weeks look like at the moment?
Well, I go to an office every day. I don't work from home. It's not good for me to work from home. I like to be around people. And, I've still got projects which are very, very dear to my heart, which I'm pushing forward or trying to push forward on a daily basis.
And do you feel energized? Is every day full of, we're going to bring in the family soon who are going to speak about this, but, where does your energy come from?
I think energy comes with inspiration, and I think if you've got inspiration, then the energy will be there. And I think when you lack inspiration, that's when you often lack energy. And sometimes when we feel discouraged, people feel, of course, we all feel discouraged from time to time. But I think if you've got a strong vision that it's dear to your heart, for me anyway, that's fuel. That is the fuel that keeps me going, and my desire to do noble work that's going to not only feed my own soul, but hopefully feed the soul of the people that I'm presenting my work to.
Yeah, when I spoke to you on the phone, I said that your life has been made for a long-form podcast. And this is the longest-form podcast I think you've been on, and I'm really looking forward to getting into the detail. I want to start by bringing in Hayley. And the way we do things is we go around and we ask some of your friends and family for their sort of interpretation or perception of our guest. And strap in, because there's a little bit to get through here, but I think it paints a nice picture. Hayley writes, "The funny thing is that he's super out there, the loudest one in the room, and always trying to be the funniest and all that in public, but he's actually the same at home. Like every time me and my brother and sister would arrive home, it's like it's the best thing that's ever happened to him. He'll open the door and he's like, oh my gosh, this is the best ever. Life's so great now you're here. There's not really an off button. He's either fully on or he's asleep. There's no in between. Always so positive. Every single day of his life is like the best day of his life. Everything is very exciting. He's always been a really engaged dad, engaged with what we're saying, engaged with what we're doing. He never pushed us, but was always open for chats about what we wanted to do next. I couldn't count the number of conference talks we've gone to when he's been the motivational speaker, and he hates that word.
I sure do.
But we've sat there and listened to hundreds of those, and I've picked up so many one-liners and so much advice that I just take as normalized. There's some very ingrained stuff that we don't realize. Probably the biggest thing, which he probably doesn't say explicitly, is that he doesn't think that any idea is too big to achieve. No matter what your idea is, he thinks there's a way to make that happen. There's nothing that's out of bounds to talk about or to think about or to dream. And if we do have an idea, he's like, yeah, let's make that happen.
Good old Hayley, eh?
Yeah. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, well, that's her perspective. So, you got to honour her however she sees it. But it's great. I think that, we talk about the glass half full and the glass half empty, don't we? And I guess I'm grateful that my default position is the glass half full. I look at things through a positive lens, and I'm very grateful that I'm wired that way. Not everybody is.
Where did that begin? Where did you first start to notice that you have this different outlook on life to other people?
My mum is currently 94, still very much, vibrant and alive. And I think I've got a lot of my personality from my mum. She's a great people person, a great gatherer of people. She wants people to be happy. She wants to, she probably reads 100 books a year, even at 100 books a year, 94 books a year at 100 years old. But she's fully engaged. So I give my mum with a lot of credit for how my DNA, of course.
Are you still doing the daily walks? Is she still up for the beach walks?
Look, she's up for anything. Mum and I often have a between two wines. Some evenings at around 5 o'clock. So yeah, I see my mum most days. So yeah, she's a real inspiration to me.
It's a recurring theme. We had Jason Gunn in here a little while ago, who recently unfortunately lost his mum, but spoke so beautifully about her and her memory and the influence that she's had on his life as his, I guess, biggest cheerleader.
100%.
Same for you?
100%. And, it's interesting, I was just a little bastard, I really was, and my mum used to say, if you can't say anything nice, don't speak. So between the ages of 12 and 15, I don't recall her saying a word to me. But she was always very much a cheerleader in my life and very much believed in what I could do, yeah.
Because those early years, I mean, you self-confessed, you left school at 15. I think you've said if you could have left school at 12, you would have, because you wasted 3 years of your life.
Yeah, wasted the 3 of the best years of my life. Left with my FSC, which stands for Failed School Certificate.
Which a lot of people listening won't even know what a school certificate is anymore.
No, well, they'll know what any achievement is, and it was none of that. So, left with no qualifications.
But when you did leave, was it a big, wide world that you saw? Like just a world of opportunities, or was it? No,
it was I had so many jobs on the way through. I decided I wanted to be a bricklayer. That lasted one day. I had all these little jobs, but in fact, it was my mum who found an ad in the paper at CBS Records for a sales rep. Paid $8,000 a year, came with a company car, and I was interviewed by a guy called John McCready. And that job interview completely changed my life and changed the course of my life. So that was how I got into the music industry, and that just set me off, and life was never the same after getting that job.
We've had a chain of super successful people that have left school early. It's been a really common theme with these high achievers. When you look back, is there anything school could have done differently for you, or were it just wasn't meant for you, that path?
Look, let's take our hats off to the teachers that have 30 different kids in the room and they're trying to, they've got to just stick to the syllabus, don't they? I'm not going to make any commentary on education. I didn't do well, but I did well in other areas of my life, not just, outside of schooling, so life wasn't so bad. Yeah.
And tell me about the influence of your dad, because he was a builder by trade.
Very hardworking builder. Dad left school when he was 12. And, he went to work. Dad was raised during the Great Depression. Dad's father went to debtor's prison during the Great Depression because he couldn't pay his bills. So think about that. Think about what that does to who he was and his upbringing. And so he just worked incredibly, incredibly hard. He said that, Dad never put anything on hire purchase ever. I think probably as a result of the experience that it had with his own father. And so, debt was a very bad thing for Dad. And so that was how he was raised. So you had Mum, gregarious and outgoing, and Dad who lived his life his way, But Dad taught me to sail. I'm very grateful for that. And, that's it.
You have always had a love of the water, right?
Definitely.
Is that where you draw a lot of your inspiration from, being out and about in nature?
Well, they say, they talk about they joke about being in the shower, how it gives you inspiration. I think anything around water is very good for inspiration. Yeah.
So link us up to CBS Records, because you leave school early, you don't get the qualifications, but then at 19 you get a job as a sales rep, and this links you up to becoming the managing director at 23.
Yes.
So 19 to 23, take us to the beginning of that path and how you made such a rise.
Interestingly enough, I answered an ad in the paper for Polygram Records, a different record company. It was through a personnel company. You know, you go through a personnel company, and I had an interview, and I never heard from them. They didn't tell me if I was good, bad, or whatever. 2 weeks later, I went for an interview at CBS Records, and John McCready employed me on the spot, by the way, on the spot. I'd been in that job at CBS for 2 weeks when the recruitment company rang me back for my second interview at Polygram. It was interesting, though, that affected me so much that I've hardly ever used recruitment companies in my entire career because I decided that they weren't spontaneous enough. They didn't give enough encouragement to the person on the other side of the table. John McCready changed my life. I started as a sales rep at CBS. I then went through, long story short, went through...
You can make long story long.
No, we've got enough stories to make all the long story short. And so, sales rep, then promotions person. I went to the radio stations to get records played, get videos played on the likes of Ready to Roll, Radio with Pictures, Ask Your Parents.
No, I was around. Don't
Really?
worry.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to stay up late on a Friday.
Oh, really? Okay, you sure? Good for you, Seamus. And so did well with that. Then ran the marketing department. John McCready was going to run CBS Australia, and he put me forward to run CBS New Zealand. But you're right, Steve. He gave me that opportunity when I was 23 years old with no qualifications. At 23 years old, I was running a major record company with 30 staff. The staff hated that appointment. Like, that was not good news for them because I was about the youngest in the company. And I'm pretty sure they thought I couldn't do the job. I'm pretty sure they thought I was the wrong appointment. And there was a lot of chat within the company themselves to say, this isn't working, this is a disaster. I'd had no management experience, had no HR experience. We didn't even have HR back in the day. Bring it back. Bring it back.
The lack of HR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
You could fire someone like that.
100%.
Clear your desk.
Come on.
Yeah.
Down the road, they used to call it.
Did you ever walk anybody out?
Yes. I got walked a few times. I got the 30 staff in my first week on the job to the boardroom and said, hey, most of you think I can't do this job. I get that. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you the weekend to think about it. And on Monday, you're either going to give me your resignation or you're going to give me your best. It's one or the other. And we fixed that problem like that. And that was certainly some of the happiest days of my life.
Okay, stop there.
Well,
23.
Thought I was a guest for a second.
I've got some too.
No.
I
need to pick apart at this. So 23, and to have the balls to be in that position in the first place, but then to have the balls to say, right, I got a meeting with everyone, and some of them are questioning the decision to put you there, and just to come out with that.
Yes.
Like, where does that come from?
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. In this day and age, HR would be having meetings with small groups for 6 months to try and get some unity. But it was like, we're either doing it together or we're not, but let's not talk about it forever. And I'm thinking, I thought that showed a lot of wisdom. You think you're right. I don't know where it came from, but boy, we fixed a problem real quick and we got a united team real quick. And I'm proud of that.
And is that just you decide? Are you talking to anyone about this is what I'm going to do?
No,
you're just out on your own.
Out of my own at 23 years old, fixing a problem that we've got and fixing it real quick.
When you reflect back on that story now,
yes.
Do you think that's what sets you apart? That's why you've gone on to have the sort of success you have?
Well, I think it's just a matter of just doing the right, I don't know, just doing the right thing, just, making good decisions.
Yeah, is it a gut?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can imagine when you are, I mean, I'm reflecting back on me at 23, there's not a chance I'm having that conversation or that meeting with people.
Yes.
So I wonder if that's a reflection of the 80s and what the 80s were like. Quite, I don't know, like my vision of it is young go-getters. There was kind of a yuppie culture. I'm not sure where that fits in the timeline. But if you want it, you got to go out and get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was free. You need to understand that the 80s was very long lunches and all the things that nobody does anymore.
Yeah.
No wonder there's no inspiration.
But was it when you get into that position as well, was it, I've got an idea and we're going to do it? Did you go to meetings, quorum decisions, and
the great news about running CBS Records, the greatest company in the world, was that every week you were releasing the world's top artists, Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, Barbra Streisand, you name it. We had the very, very best. And it was like a kid in a candy shop, that we had a team of people taking the world's greatest music to our local market, which was New Zealand. So that was how I cut my teeth, was just on sales and promotion and all that thing in the music industry, which I love.
I think for reference as well, CBS then became Sony Entertainment. So
yes, exactly.
This is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Even then.
Oh, yeah. But, CBS was just the greatest. Bob Dylan. I mean, all the top artists were on CBS.
Amongst your peers, so part of this job, you're mixing with Michael Jackson, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, George Michael, Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
This is... What are your friends saying? They're like, "Well, you've got the most incredible job in the world."
It was the most incredible job in the world. There's just no doubting that. It was, and I have, we've entertained all those people, so it's very, very cool. Yeah,
it's it's almost cyclic now, isn't it? Where music was a live experience initially, and then it became an album, and you listen to it at home. Then streaming came along, and it sort of took away the interaction you had. And then almost now, to get that feeling, you've got to go to live events again.
Yeah, and also, let's not do the economics of the music industry, but, live is where the money is. Yeah.
Yeah, but in those days, like acts, I mean, these names that we've rattled off, you're literally rubbing shoulders with them while they're here in New Zealand.
Absolutely. We were hosting them, which is a lot of fun. Yeah.
There's you sent us your book, which I can't recommend highly enough. I really enjoyed it, Eat, Drink and Be Murray. And there's a story in there about when you were with Men at Work. And I was wondering if you could do us a favour and retell that one.
Best story ever. So Men at Work, Australian band, as you know, come to New Zealand and we're looking after them, and they've got their album Business as Usual with the hits Down Under and Who Can It Be Now and, all that good stuff. I take them to a nightclub and, they just made number one in America. We number one first in New Zealand, second in Australia. They're now number one in America. They're the biggest band in the world. And we're at an Auckland nightclub. And we go there. This is the 80s. And we might have had a couple of beers while we were there. And I am driving them back to their hotel at 2 or 3 in the morning. And we get pulled, and I've got the whole band. I'm driving, and the whole band is in the car, right? And the coloured lights come on behind, and the cop pulls me over. And as the cop comes up behind, I say to the band, "I'm sorry, guys, but I have to go now." And I get out of the car and climb over a fence at Auckland University. And so now the cop's on one side of the fence and I'm on the other. And the cop's like, "Come over." And and I left Men at Work in the car, never went back. And the following day caught up with them again. But, and then that, of course, story went round the world. And I said, and I think I said at the time, what gets you fired in a normal job makes you famous in the music industry. It's like, that sort of behavior was, you did quite well, to be perfectly honest, because it sort of added to your reputation. But yeah, and the band loved it. They absolutely loved it. Yeah.
I love the detail there of you on one side of the fence and the police. Sorry, yes. I gotta go.
I'm not coming. So that's
good times.
Right, that was rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, but listen, look, just so you know, like I've never been a heavy drinker at any time, and I've never taken drugs. So yeah.
Mm. Which I imagine, when you're working in that field, probably people probably think, yeah, right, Murray.
Oh, for God, and also because I'm a little bit hyper, I got asked for drugs, my whole life. Yeah, I just said I was into life sniffing.
That's a good one. I use that.
Okay, so take us to 25, because in your book you reflect on, from the outside, things looked like you had it all, but that wasn't how you were feeling inside.
Yeah, that's very, very true. When I was around about that stage of my life, I, was going out with the best looking girl in Auckland, who I later married, by the way, living on the cliff at Takapuna, overlooking the water, and running a multinational record company. But I just felt a leanness in my soul. That was all, like I just thought, God, there's got to be more to it. And that was actually at the time that I renewed my faith. I was brought up in the Sunday school at Kohimarama Presbyterian, and I just felt that I had I was lacking God in my life, and I just wanted to make my peace with God again. And that was important to me to do that. But it was interesting. I went round to my brother Barry's house and just said, listen, I just want to sort of just recalibrate with God, if you will, and had a chat to Barry about it. And then I woke up the following day thinking, gee, I'm running this record company. Obviously I'm going to have to leave and become a missionary. I just thought, well, that's what you do. You don't run a record company. And obviously, God just had other plans and kept me in that role, which I'm very happy about. And as I said at the time, the closest thing I got to Africa was promoting Toto, So, that was, but yeah, so that was, but I just carried on running that. But I guess I just sort of found myself, recalibrated my life, and that was very, very important to me.
And was it eventually that the role and your feeling couldn't coexist at the same time, and you felt like you needed to do your own thing?
No, not at all. I was actually very, very happy to do that job, but I always had a strong desire to be self-employed and to run my own business. And so I left the best job you could ever have to run my own business. And, you talked about Hayley before. And of course, Hayley, my first daughter, she was born the night that I left CBS Records. I went from my farewell party at CBS to National Women's Hospital, and I was self-employed and a father on the very same day. So, it was a massive change of life.
Yeah, can we dig into that a little bit more? Like, why? Why are you going from such a high-paying, perfect job to try to start your own thing with a child on the way?
I don't know, Steve. I don't know. I'd learned a lot running CBS, and I wanted to have a go. I guess that's a simple. Anne and I worked out that, if we could earn, I think it was at that time like 15,000 or 27,000, I think it was, that we could put food on the table, pay the mortgage at 27,000. And if it didn't go, I could go and get a job again, but at least we tried. And I've got to say, Anne was very, very encouraging. Who wants a husband to leave a good job when you've just had your first child? But she was very encouraging, and we had a go. And, I haven't had a job since, or working for somebody else anyway, from that day to this. So I've been self-employed for about 38 years now.
Were there some scratchy times in those early years?
Yeah, of course, but also a lot of adventure. A lot of adventure. I think that's really, talk about better work stories. You meet people and what do you do? And they're sort of like, hello, nothing going on, Yeah, well, we've had a huge amount of adventure and business adventure, which I'm extremely excited about.
Where did Cat Patrol fit in that sense of adventure?
Oh, God. Jeepers, you've got that out of nowhere. Jeepers, Seamus, are you even listening to the interview? Oh, my God. I'm
thinking of new dad building that bond with his daughter.
Seamus, I'm with you, and good for you, brother, and welcome back. I think so. When I became self-employed, I'm working from home, and I've got this new baby. So every day I would put Hayley into the pushchair, and we would go on cat patrol and just walk around the neighborhood looking for cats, and that was that. But yeah, look, starting over was really, really interesting, because you go from being the CBS Records guy with the mana that comes with that to being nobody. You're really just starting again. So it's a really interesting phase, actually, but a very exciting one.
So this is where the story, from my opinion, gets a little bit convoluted. And I'm going to link you up to when you meet Carl Doy and we talk about Piano by Candlelight. But before then, there's a period where you sign Dave Dobbin, you produce the Loyal album, you link up with Billy T. James on 10 News, you're an agent for John Kerwin and David Kirk. This is all sort of happening around the same time?
Very much the same time.
And so how is this all happening?
Steve, you half asked the question. You said, like, what are you? What are you?
What are you?
That's a good question. I'm a person looking for opportunities to provide for my family and just, that's what I am, and all those things. Dave Dobbin and I got together for Loyal. I looked after David Kirk and John Kirwan during the 1987 when they won the World Cup for the first time, working with Billy T. James. All that was happening all at the same time. And of course, I don't know where you want to go next. We can go anywhere. But
wherever you want.
Well, no. And of course, I met Carl Doy at roughly the same time. And roughly the same time, we tended for Personalised plates, bringing that into New Zealand. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's some beautiful serendipity about all of those things.
Yes.
Happening. Happy accident or deliberate choices?
No, there's no deliberate choices in that lot, I don't think. I think, I love the words serendipity, rather than happy accident. It's serendipitous, Anyway, that's how I look at it.
And my read on it, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you will correct me if I am wrong, but it's not necessarily all out for financial gain. It seems you do things because you want to and you enjoy.
And to this day, look, I am not going to be the richest guy in any room. Probably even including this one.
No, you definitely are this one.
I don't know.
Producer Sam.
Sitting on a nest egg that we don't know about. I just want to do work that I love, and I know that's the old thing, but money has not been my motivator. Yeah, that's for sure. I don't think that's why we do what we do.
Yeah,
this is our favorite part of the week.
Isn't it wonderful?
And if you get the opportunity to do it and to earn a living, not necessarily make lots of money, but it's really fulfilling.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I left CBS, I was reporting to the president in America, a guy called Alan Davis, and I said to him I was going to go, and because, of course, the corporate life, you're in that forever. I could still be in the corporation now that I was in 40 years ago. And, and he received my resignation. He said, "Good for you, Murray." And he said, and he paid me a small amount of money. He said, "I just want to keep you on the payroll." I said, "No, Alan, I'm leaving." He goes, "Murray, you're not listening. I want to keep paying you money and I'm helping you get on your way." And I thought that was incredibly generous of him to do that, Yeah, just fantastic.
I love that detail in the book. Yeah, just giving someone a helping hand.
Exactly.
And they don't even know what they need. But
that's so true.
You know
so
what
true.
you need.
Yeah.
Before I get to Carl, so this period where we talked about Dave Dobbin and Billy T and John Kirwan and David Kirk, have you made a bit of a name for yourself? People know you as a guy who can be trusted and is competent. Is that how you're sort of linking all these relationships together?
Well, I think that, your work should do all the talking, shouldn't it? It's you've either got a history of good work and good relations as well. Some people, can not put those two together, but good work has to go with good relations so that, you've hopefully got a whole lot of people who enjoyed their time with you, would be happy to work with you again. I think that's very, very important. Every day we need to draw on our contacts and people that we've worked with or that we would like to, other people that we would like to work with. And it's only our reputation that's going to open doors for us, that's for sure. So I think to build strong relationships is very, very important.
I'm skipping ahead to kind of business hacks or lessons from Murray, but I've heard you say that the work you do this year is what helps you get paid next year.
Absolutely. The quality of this year's work will determine next year's opportunities.
Yeah, it's such a great way to. Such a great outlook to have.
Yeah, it's so true, so true.
We've got a big home straight of business hacks.
Yeah,
we're going to make our way there.
Yes, Seamus.
How dare you?
I'm still running to 90 minutes. Don't worry, you're not getting out of here any sooner. Don't worry.
I just want to. Do you still have relationships with all those names? Not Billy T, obviously, but Dave Dobbin and John Kirwan and David Kirk.
Listen, David Kirk, rang me just 3 weeks ago. We went to the All Blacks together. Went to an All Blacks game together. So I'm very, very fond of David. I think he's he should be on the show, by the way.
Oh, we
don't know anyone that knows him.
We've put out a.
He would be fantastic.
He'd be a dream guest.
You should get him. Honestly, he's just one of life's great guys. So smart, unbelievable. Yes, in touch with of course, Dave and I are still great friends. Yeah.
Okay. I want to link us up to Carl at the Regent.
Yes.
And this is such a cool story. But take us to the very beginning. You're having dinner at the Regent.
Yes.
What happens?
So Anne and I, we go out for dinner. We go to the Regent for a cup of coffee. The Regent, that's been renamed so many times, that hotel.
To Stanford now. Is it Stanford?
Something like that. I don't know. Or the Quarters, who knows? Holiday Inn.
I like the way you retell stories, but you actually go back to where you were and what the name was there. It's not like
important.
Yeah.
chilling in the Holiday Inn. And Anne and I walk in. We're having a cup of coffee. There's only two of us there, by the way. Pianist is playing in the corner. And I said to Anne, this is interesting. I've only been out of running my own record company for CBS for about 6 months. I'm not in the music industry now. You know, who knows what business I'm in. And I'm listening to Carl, and I said to Anne, whoever's playing that piano, I'm going to sign. So I went across, introduced myself to Carl Doy, said I'd like to do something with you. Carl, by the way, has played in lobbies his whole life. He's heard that so many times, you know, and people never get back to him. Interesting part about that story, I was very excited about that, unusual, and went back to the hotel the following night. And as I was walking in, I was listening to the piano, I'm thinking, oh, I've made a terrible mistake. That doesn't sound so good. And it was a different pianist. Mm-hmm. So Carl just had the touch. He had something very special about him. Got hold of Carl, and together we worked it out in 1987, and we did an album called Piano by Candlelight. Ask your grandparents on that one. We're going way back. And, you know, meeting Carl, life highlight for me. He's just, you know, just one of life's incredible people. We've had a working relationship for nearly 40 years now, and we've just done some amazing work together. But he is just incredible talent. And at that time, Richard Clayderman, I don't know, you guys wouldn't, he was a pianist back in the day. Look, I really, again, ask your nana. He was huge, sold lots of piano albums, and everybody said, look, we don't need Carl because we've got Richard Clayderman. Anyway, it went to number one, huge hit, and then wherever you want to go after that.
Yeah, I want to keep telling the story. So what does that mean? You put this album together, it goes really well. Like, what does it actually mean?
It's interesting, eh? Having left a major record company, I'm now going with my own artist back to a record company. And the word was, oh, poor Murray, you know, he's left and he's come back selling elevator music, you know. And so there was a lot of negativity. But remember, look, I used to be the man in the chair, and now I'm the man with the staple gun, putting the posters up in the shop windows and taking stock and trying to get this artist called Carl Doy established. That was a great time of life. It really was. Talk about roll your sleeves up and get it going. And then, of course, you know, we just kept making, you know, we did Piano by Candlelight, and because I'm a marketing genius, I called the next one Piano by Candlelight 2, for those of you making notes. And that actually outsold the first one double over, and then we got it released all around the world. So it was very, very exciting.
Are you selling the vision at that stage?
Very much so.
And how are you doing? How are you selling it to Carl?
But we're always selling. Oh, we're always selling the vision, aren't we? See, Seamus, that's possibly your best question so far. Okay, if you want to make a note of it.
Yeah,
because that's life is all about articulating your vision. Whatever it is, whatever business or service that you're in, your ability to articulate your vision is everything in business. So you're right. And with Carl, I have to cast the vision to him for starters, which I think was the basis of your question. And then you've got to cast it to the record companies and the record stores and the media outlets and, you know, news stories, whatever it might be. We continually retell our story over and over again. That's what we do. You know, there's so much I'd like to go to from here, but anyway.
Go. Please.
No, because I was going to go to the Great New Zealand Cookbook from there. But anyway,
that's
just
okay.
carry on.
We don't have to go linear.
No. We'll find it. We'll find it. Even without notes, I can remember.
So how long after
67, you say?
That's good. It's good. I'm trying hard not to look at them now because
How long after that first album comes out do you know it's a success?
Straight away.
And what does that mean, like financially?
Financially, that's a different sort of success. But because you've got the top 40 charts every week, you know if something's successful straight away. So, you know, you come in at number 15 and next week. You just hang out every week for the top 40 charts and where am I? And, you know, when Carl and I got our first number one record, that was very, very exciting. Yeah.
Did you celebrate?
Possibly. I don't see any reason to get too excited.
No, but I've heard you say you've got to celebrate, and we probably don't we probably don't celebrate our successes enough in general.
Look, why don't we just have a little chat about that? We could do this in business hacks, but let's bring it forward a little bit. You know, I always say that, you know, running a business or starting a business is very much like having a baby. You know, you have your baby, and back in the day, you'd put the birth notice in the paper. Harry and Sally have had Caleb. Rejoice with us. And they're telling the whole world that don't care, but they've had a baby. And I think it's very important when you've conceived something in your business, you've conceived it, you've labored over it, and you've brought it to birth, as you guys have done with your business. That's when, you know, when a baby is born, you talk about wet the baby's head, the champagne. We've got to celebrate. And one thing I think we do very well is we celebrate whatever it is that we're bringing to the market. Why? Because we're incredibly proud of it. And I'm telling you this, if you're not celebrating, it's because you're not proud of what you're doing. It's as simple as that. The party comes as a result of a job well done. And I'm very much into that.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
That's
and
hot.
If you have those moments of inspiration, don't wait for the linear part of the story. Just leap into them. Because that's sometimes when you're probably you're sitting on our side of it. I heard you say that on another interview on the drive up, and I thought, he's so right. We get bogged down in the detail of, what are we going to do next and how do we do this, versus just being present in the moment and going, wow,
yes,
look at what we've done.
Yeah, and you know, it says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. In other words, if you've got something that's in your heart, it'll come out time and time and time again, regardless of what product but you're doing. But if we're doing the Great New Zealand Songbook, for instance, I'm going to talk about that. Great New Zealand Cookbook, talk Miracle with Celine Dion. I'm going to talk about that. That's what it is. It's just in you. You're so passionate about it because you've conceived it. Yeah,
and that's not scripted, right? That's just pouring
100%. 100%.
Head to mouth, heart to mouth.
Forget your blooming. What are those terrible things that people do in meetings? They got the thing. PowerPoint. Oh my God! Don't ever do that.
Do you? Because you run a few keynotes as well, not as a motivational speaker, but as a.
But I'm not going to use PowerPoint, is what I'm going to say. It's like my son gave me a great. He says, if you're taking minutes, you're wasting hours. Don't do meetings. Nobody should ever be in a meeting, ever, for any reason.
Yeah, love that. Piano by Candlelight.
It's called
Candlelight enters the top 40 chart ahead of Michael Jackson's Bad.
Oh, yes.
Right? That's right. That's got to be a celebration moment.
Yeah,
You've got to have a party for that.
That's so true. I forgot about that. Carl Doy, Piano by Candlelight, is ahead of Michael Jackson's Bad album. I mean, how great was that?
That is incredible.
It is. Yeah.
For elevator music.
Yeah.
Were you rubbing a few people's noses in a nice way that elevator music was such success?
For starters, let's stop talking about it, referring to it as elevator music. That was my joke that I don't want you to hijack.
No, it's the second time that I've done that.
But it's like, I'm not trying to rub anybody's nose in it. We're just so proud of what we've done and the fact that the market has seen what we saw. When people, when you can see something and then the market sees it, that's very, very satisfying.
So for the next decade, you release a new album sort of every year or two. And I want you to link us up together. But through that period, what's the most interesting part of that? Is it just that there was demand to keep churning them out?
Good one, Steve. I think that it's like when we started, we had no budget to make great music. It was like Carl was making a little go a long way. As time went on, we started recording with the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, and our recordings became absolutely world class. That was a big moment for us. Over time, also, yes, we moved on and we did a product called the Together 10 CD collection. It was very elaborate. It had photos from Jeff Blackwell's Milk photographic collection, and we put our music to go with it. It was great. It was just phenomenal. And that is the product that we sent to the Oprah Winfrey Show, and she only, of course, gets 1,000 products a minute. So, but that, we were just rung one day completely out of the blue to say that Oprah had taken our Together collection and named it one of her favorite things for the year. She put it on her favorite things show, which was completely and utterly mind-blowing. When she held up the Together collection, which wasn't in store, we were selling it online. She held up and she said, "This could be my favorite of all the favorites." It was the Together 10 CD collection. And when she held it up, we took $250,000 worth of orders an hour. My mum always said, you need to be in a business that makes money while you sleep. And that was a perfect example of that, but I wasn't sleeping, I can tell you. That was one of the most exciting things of my whole life was to have that. But, here's the thing, circle back, because this is really, really, I think, really interesting, is that, yes, we have a product on the Oprah Winfrey Show, but come back with me to the hotel where Carl is playing to just Anne and I, and you think, somebody should record the pianist, and then you go home and you have a cup of tea and a ginger nut, and you say to yourself, well, if he's that good, why hasn't somebody already signed him? Or if he's that good, why is he playing to no one? People don't do anything with that first little idea they've got, and now we're on the Oprah Winfrey Show. So I'm just, completely.
It's such a wild story.
It's a wild story, but I've got 100 of those stories. That's the thing.
You actually do.
I do.
I want to dig in on this one because I watched back that clip of Oprah talking about it, and she's like, every time she mentions, and it's got these artists, and it's this, and the crowd's like whooping and hollering, and I can't imagine that as being broadcast on New Zealand TV, right? That's just in America, and you're hearing about it.
Yes.
So do you hear that she's talked about your thing for 90 seconds?
The president of Sony Music America rang me up. He said, I've just seen together on the Oprah Winfrey Show, strap yourself in. Yeah, it's going to be and it was massive. That was a life highlight.
Could you keep up with demand?
We could not.
Yeah. What was the state of the internet in 2002?
I don't know. It was terrible. but we had this little thing, where if you pressed a button, it refreshed how many sales you did, And I just sat there for 3 days pressing refresh, knowing that we'd made a few bucks off each one, it was very, very exciting. But that just gives you a little look into what life can be. Again, go back. Hey, I always had the staple gun at the record store, and people were saying I'm selling elevator music. And fast forward, we make it onto the Oprah Winfrey Show. But how many people are prepared to take a big chunk of humble pie and take a big step backwards in the first place? Not many.
If any.
Thank you.
Scribe.
That's it from the Great New Zealand Songbook.
So after that initial hit, what does the next year look like for Together? Are you having to bring on more staff and shipping it out everywhere, getting it into the shop?
Look, to be honest, it finishes as quickly as it starts on those shows. You sell a ton, and then of course, it did. Sales have always been very, very good, but just that rush was just exceptional. But then Carl and I did continue to make and sell a number of albums, and we still are to this day after that time. But then there's so many things I could say, but carry on.
There will be some people who don't know what the Together 10 actually was, and it was a combination of music.
It was 10 CDs primarily, where we did the music of the Beatles and Streisand, Sinatra, and all that kind of thing. But it was presented in a beautiful book. Yeah.
You do have 100 of these stories, and there's one that I've heard you kind of brush through, almost like you don't like talking about it, which I can understand. But for anyone else, it would be like the major chapter in their story, which is personalised plates.
Yes.
And you won the government tender to market personalised number plates, and you did it for a decade.
Yes.
But is there a reason that you kind of would rather talk about other things?
Good question, Steve. Interesting. That happened in 1987. And that was also when I signed Carl Doy, was in 1987. So I'm still in the music business. My friend Peter Jordan told me there was an ad in the tenders column to introduce personalised number plates into New Zealand, and we should have a go at it. Who would? I don't know. So we had to think about what would we tender for that. It'd never been in New Zealand. I heard we're up against about 60 other tenderers, including the 3M company, like big businesses. NZ Post was one of the tenderers. And we just put up some money. Long story short, we started that business. And I've got to say, introducing personalised plates into New Zealand in 1987 was another life highlight for me. Incredible, incredible business. Oh my God, I think we turned over maybe 200,000 in our first month. It was just like away. It was, and it was just fantastic. But I didn't want to have written on my tombstone, he sold lots of number plates. So yes, I did have that for a decade. I loved that business. I loved the people that I brought onto that business. But there is a thing called culture, which is very important in business. And over time, with a growing business, our culture changed. if I had my time again, I wouldn't have taken my fingerprints off that business like I did and had management take it over who were not my people. That was the mistake that I made, and that's why I don't give it a lot of airtime, was for that reason. If I had my time again, I would have been there longer and other people would have been there for a shorter time. Yes.
And the last year or two were your worst experiences in business?
In that business. Yeah. Look, here's the thing. I lost my joy. And when you lose your joy, you lose your strength, because joy and strength go hand in hand. And I just was lying on a beach towel at our beach house at Stanwell Bay, and I just thought, God, what am I doing? I'm not enjoying this. And so I just thought, I've got to get out of that business, and I've got to return to my first love in business, which is the music business. And that's when we carried on and have done all sorts of other things. Yeah.
Which links us up nicely with Miracle.
Oh, yes.
2004. So Celine, Dion and Anne Geddes.
Yes.
How does this conception come alive?
See, look, at that time, when we release anything to the market, I give away so many copies. Because what I'm wanting to do is, I want you to celebrate. I've created this. Please celebrate. So I'm going to give, at that time, we'd just done Margaret Ehrlich's Second Nature album. You guys may not know who Margaret Ehrlich is. She was with the band Peking Man. They had that track Room That Echoes. I signed them at CBS. I loved Margaret Ehrlich and I signed her to her own album. That, by the way, Seamus, is how you tell a short story.
I'm taking notes.
But you need to really take it in.
I'm taking notes.
You need to really take that in, okay? I've now got the Margaret Ehrlich album and I'm sending it to everybody that I can think of. One person that I thought of, I sent it to Cal Geddes, who was the husband of Anne Geddes, famous baby photographer. He said, thanks for sending me the Margaret Ehrlich album. I'd love to do something with Anne's photos and music. I said, who would you like to use? He said, I think Celine Dion. We sent it to Celine Dion, never heard back from them. It didn't happen. A year comes and goes. We send it back to Celine Dion as an idea to go with Anne Geddes, and they came on board. So I was executive producer of the Miracle album. We sold 2 or 3 million copies. It also was another production on Oprah, so we've had 2 of our productions on Oprah. But here's the thing. If I had, now get ready to just have your mind completely blown. If I had not given Cal Geddes a copy of the little CD of Margaret Ehrlich, we wouldn't have a Celine Dion release. It's like that, again, if we hadn't signed Carl Doy at the lobby, we wouldn't have been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I always say that opportunities don't shout, they whisper. And that's a perfect example of that. So that's how the Celine Dion thing came about.
And if you'd given up on that first approach and not gone back, it doesn't work either, which is another common theme.
Very much so.
Keep knocking on that door, right?
Very much so, yeah.
There's a great story in the book around this period when you're sort of traveling around and meeting Celine, and there's a New York bar and Billy Joel's playing the piano, and I think you said it was one of the highlights of your career or life at that point.
Anne and I go to the St. Regis Hotel in New York, and we go downstairs, and the pianist is Billy Joel, right? And he's just there. There are 6 people in this bar. I'm not kidding. And so, and Billy is, I'd met him a number of times. I'd hosted him in New Zealand when he toured here. So we knew each other. Didn't expect him to see him there. His insurance agent has told him he can't sing because he's got to protect his voice. So he's just playing his tracks. And I go and I start singing. So I'm singing Piano Man and Uptown Girl. I've got the worst voice in the whole world. But, an old New York woman comes up to me and she goes, oh, my God, you've got a beautiful voice. It's marvelous. You've got to keep singing. Anyway, so that was catching up with Billy Joel over there, which is a bit of fun.
It's a good story.
It's a good story to have in your locker, isn't it? Yeah. You must have some heck of
tons.
The moments that just come. Oh, tons. Remember when that happened?
Tons. That's why you got to write a book.
Miracle does 2 million albums and 500,000 books sort of straight off the bat. Has that become normalized at that point with your other success? Are you kind of like, oh, this is what is expected?
No, that's at another level. That's at another level volume-wise, that's for sure. Because, we were looking at, I think, the Amazon charts at that time, and we were selling I don't know, maybe we might sell 250,000 copies in a day, such as the American market. So, that was a whole nother level.
What's it like being in the room with Celine Dion singing? Like, is it just different level?
Well, Anne and I went to Celine's home for dinner. We just had dinner in her home. And so we're there with her and her husband, Renee, at that time. And there was just 6 of us. So it was just, I've been and spent time with a lot of artists in my life at the very top of their game. So I'm used to it. They're just normal people. And often a lot of them are really good people. Yeah.
The next chapter, the Great New Zealand Songbook.
Yes.
2009.
Okay.
Talk us a bit about this.
So my son Sam and I are at what was the Vector Arena, now the Spark Arena. We're at a Split Enz concert. I'm walking out with Sam from the Split Enz concert, and I turned to him after the show and I said, Sam, you've just heard the Great New Zealand Songbook. Never said that before in my life. And I was referring to Split Enz, of course, because, hey, they could fill 1,000 songbooks just on their own. And as I said, I thought, I really like the way that sounds. And so that was the seed for the Great New Zealand Songbook, was that throwaway line. So as a result of that, we just started thinking about what could it be, what could it become? And at that time, I thought, well, normally you do an album, and I've done many of them, and you do an album, then the cover's the last. It's so like you put the dress on the model at the end. But for the songbook, we turned that on its head, and I did the artwork first, where we took, Charlie the Four-Square Man. I got Dick Frizzell to paint him holding a guitar, and then I started approaching the artists. Hey, Dave Dobbin, would you handwrite the lyrics to Welcome Home? Neil Finn, would you, handwrite the lyrics? We got Brooke Fraser, you name it, Shehart, and we just invited 40 of New Zealand's top recording artists to handwrite the lyrics. And could we do something beautiful and historic? And that's what the Great New Zealand Songbook was. And then talking about celebrating, we then launched that at the Auckland Museum, and it was covered for an hour on Network News, and they took that live. It was just an incredible highlight. The Great New Zealand Songbook was just another life highlight, huge life highlight.
Yeah, it was a soundtrack to my Subaru Legacy for many, many years.
100%. It's amazing how many of those CDs stuck in the player.
The cover is iconic.
It really is.
But did you know Dick Frizzell before?
No, I did not know Dick Frizzell, and I just had this idea of, because he, of course, painted the Four-Square Man in various iterations, if you will. And I said, just got hold of him, and I said, Dick, it's Murray Thom, and you don't know me, and I'd like to do this. And he wasn't overly interested. Anyway, I rang him back, and after 2 or 3 conversations, we got him interested. We went down to visit him at his house in Haumoana, and Dick enthusiastically came on board, and honestly, just a beautiful cover. It's, as you say, totally iconic.
Does the weight of putting that together, once you've got a few of them locked in and you're going, we've got Dave Dobbin in, we've got so-and-so, the others kind of fall into line? Like, is it, you just need it like 5 or 6 sort of big artists?
Yeah, I think that's true. There's, you've got to get the Statesmans, you've got to have your Don McGlashans, and then, Fat Freddy's, of course, and, there's a few that you've got to have if you're going to call it the Great New Zealand Songbook. But people came on board. It hadn't been done before, with great joy, great enthusiasm, because, of course, back in the day, albums, the artwork was a big part. And with CDs, the artwork was lost very much. And with the songbook, we brought that back. So every artist had their double-page spread to handwrite their lyrics, to do whatever they wanted with it, to give the inspiration of where they were and how they wrote the song. Again, a very, very joyous production.
And the duration from idea to delivery is around a year, is that right?
That one was probably about a year, which is actually quite short. Yeah.
Oh, right. I was going to say, that's quite a labour of love, though, as well.
It is very much a labour of love, yeah.
Are you working on that every day, nudging it forward?
That was about when my producer, Tim Harper, came on board, and he did all the design, did an incredible job. Tim would have liaised with the artists, got the designs, worked with their design. So, yeah, Tim did a fantastic job on that.
Is there another business lesson in there of how you got Gautier into the album and why?
Oh, yeah, well, that was for the Great Australian
Oh, it's moved across. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Jump across. Let's go.
You can't put Gautier on the Great New Zealand Songbook.
Yeah. Great Aussie Songbook.
You could do Kimbra in isolation.
Yes, you could.
Yeah.
Yes, you absolutely could. But
so you've had such a success with the Great New Zealand Songbook. So the obvious next step is Australia.
We did the Great Australian Songbook, and again, I got hold of talk about relationships and building them. I got hold of Peter Garrett from Midnight Oil. They were early adopters into the Great Australian Songbook, so we got the handwritten lyrics of Beds of Burning, and then now we're talking about all the incredible Australian artists like Jimmy Barnes and like John Farnham, and they all came on board with that. It was amazing.
Did you get in excess?
We did eventually get an excess. We did eventually get an excess.
You can't have the Aussie Songbook without an excess.
You cannot.
Were they receptive to your approach?
They came straight on board.
But is that a case? I know they didn't, but is that a case of that persistence again?
100%. So we contacted an excess a number of years after Michael Hutchins had passed away. We got an extremely rude and negative reaction. But you can't have the Great Australian Songbook without an excess. So it's not like you can replace them with somebody. So we just circled back and we kept at it, and eventually they came on board, which I'm extremely... But yes, I'm in the persistence business. There's no question about that.
And is that... There's a lot of people that will get dissuaded after getting a no. But to get 2 or 3 or 4 no's, you must really... I know you obviously really believe in the project, but that's real tenacity to...
It is, but I think if you're very strong on what the finished thing needs to look like, it generally keeps you going. You know? So you're not easily put off.
But you're not. There's no fixed timeline. It's we're not going out until we've got this across the line.
That's 100% true. That's very, very true. It's like, because we are creating this ourselves, there is no release date. It's released when it's done to our satisfaction, and Tim and I worked very, very hard to make it everything it could be. Yeah.
We've got a few more chapters to go, but just in the middle here, when we're talking about this, like, this is so much stuff we've already covered, and we're kind of like even going through it quickly for a long form pod. But do you reflect on it and think, shit, I've done a lot?
No. But chats like this are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always got I'm always very obsessed with what I'm currently working on and what we're about to do rather than what we've done in the past.
Yeah, it is. This space, and it's always the same. The guests, we come in and we reflect on their whole life. And sometimes, it does make you stop and take stock. I mean, writing a book would do the same thing.
Yes.
But the next one is the Great New Zealand Cookbook.
Yes.
So you've taken the idea of the songbook and you've gone cooking.
So it was interesting because the CD business, the Great New Zealand Songbook was one of the last massive CDs ever to be released. Like, we probably sold, I don't know, a couple 100,000 of that in New Zealand. Given platinum is 15, you do the math, so about 12.
Don't make me do math, Murray.
And so then we just sort of thought, I started to think about, the fact that chefs are the new rock stars. And instead of having a recording artist, handwrite their lyrics, why don't we get a chef to handwrite their recipe? And we just started to think about what the Great New Zealand Cookbook could look like. And so, again, Tim and I started working on that along with Jeff Blackwell and Ruth Hobday. And we just wanted to make it magnificent. We just wanted to do, instead of 40 recording artists, because, of course, with the songbook, we were restricted to the length of a CD. We had no restriction with the cookbook. So instead of having 40 artists, we took 80 chefs. And we just started going around and we didn't know any chefs. That's the thing.
Such a crazy thought.
In the music business, I knew pretty much all the artists, worked with them, most of them at one time or another. But now we're saying, but here's the thing, how did we get 80 of New Zealand's top cooks, chefs and bakers to come on board when we'd never done a cookbook? How did that happen? I can tell you how we did it. We sent them all a copy of the Great New Zealand Songbook, and we said, we're about to do again, the quality of this year's work opens next year's opportunities. That's a perfect example. The songbook was greatly loved and remains greatly loved. So therefore, a chef is going to go, these guys, I've got this opportunity. Well, that just really opened the way for us. And that's why we had, Peter Gordon and Peter Mathias and Josh Emmett and everybody came on board. But we did 80 on location shoots. We went all around New Zealand for that. It was another massive life highlight. Was the Great New Zealand Cookbook.
But that speaks to why it's a success and why everything you do is a success. 80 chefs, and you've gone round to them. You could have just got them to phone it in and added some photos,
true.
But you've gone and spent the time, and people see it, eh?
We went to their place on their location, sat down just like we're sitting down here, and just got to the heart, and then just got them to prepare a dish that Lottie Headley photographed and my daughter Hayley videoed, and we just had a team of 4, Lottie, Tim, Hayley and I, and we created something incredibly special.
And what a job you've created for yourself to go and eat delicious food from 80 of the greatest chefs in New Zealand.
Look, everything about that project was just perfection.
It's a hell of a category to break into as well, because cookbooks, there's quite a few of them out there. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a hell of a lot of cookbooks come out every year.
It was interesting. I started to appreciate how many cookbooks were out there when I went to a book retail chain that we were trying to sell it to. And I wasn't there to see the book buyer, I was there to see the cookbook buyer.
Oh, wow.
And there was 2 of them, and all they did all day was buy or not buy cookbooks.
Really?
And so, I remember sitting with them and showed them the start of the Great New Zealand Cookbook, and they looked at it, and it was, unfortunately, both these ladies had their personality removed at birth. And, they sat there, and I remember I was received into a windowless office with yesterday's water on the table, and they were quite underwhelmed by the whole thing. And I remember I said, look, this is what we're doing, and how do you feel about this, and what might you take? And they said, oh, look, we might take maybe 500 copies. I said, so what are we going to do on the first day at 10 o'clock in the morning when you've sold out of those 500 copies and you can't get any more? I said, I think you think this is business as usual, just another cookbook. I said, we were on the oyster boat in Bluff at 4 a.m. taking these shots. We were up with the white baiters, with the Kerr 7th generation Kerr family, white baiting family rather. We've been on location everywhere. That that eventually they took a lot more, but again, it comes back to what we were talking about ages ago. The telling and retelling of the story. People have no idea of what that takes. Like just take the 80 chefs. We've got to win over 80, all individually, one on one. Before we can even get started, they have to come on board. Then the managers, the publicists, the media outlets, the retail stores, your ability to tell your story over and over and over as if you've never told it before.
But that's your genius zone, isn't it?
It's not genius. There's nothing genius about it.
No, the way that you can meet someone for the first time and just sell them without selling them, and just be so personable and get them buy into your vision.
Yep.
And you've done it across so many different things.
We've done it so many times, but the reason we do it so successfully is it's in us, and we believe it 1,000,000%. So there's no trouble to share that. It's no trouble to share what it is that you love with one another.
Because often it can be a case of you pick up other people's energy.
Yes.
In a meeting, in a situation like that. So it's almost an unnatural thing maybe to feel, just to keep pushing and pushing when you're getting nothing back.
Oh, look, 100%. Well, I mean, entertainers, they're the best demonstrators, when they go out on a stage every night.
Well, I've heard you use the Rob Guest example of...
Shall we talk about Rob Guest?
Yeah, tell us about Rob Guest.
So Rob Guest, again, for your listeners, they need to ask their nana about this. Rob Guest performed in New Zealand in the leading role in Les Mis, way back in the day at the Aotea Centre. I go there. I thought he was amazing. And I said to him, I'm going to sign Rob. We got to do something together. I love him. And again, I signed him up. It was crazy because it was at the closing stages of the season. He was about to be unemployed. He was about to go from lead of Les Mis to nothing. Anyway, I just felt it was the right thing to do. Signed him up. A month later, everybody says, oh, God, you're an idiot. He's got nothing. A month later, he was signed up to be Phantom and Phantom of the Opera. Oh, my God, you're a genius. It's incredible. Anyway, but what I learned from Rob, nobody's taught me more about I guess, selling something or the vision than Rob. Think about that. He goes on stage every night and, in front of a couple of thousand people, and the curtain goes down, curtain comes up, lights go down, and there he is. 2,000 people, and he's got to win them over. How many times has Rob Guest performed as the lead of either Les Mis or Phantom? How many performances has he done? I can tell you how many. 3,000 performances. 3,000 performances. And he doesn't have the luxury of somebody looking, I'm not sure about this, and alter his performance. He's got to give it everything. Yeah. So when I go to a meeting and I've got the Great New Zealand Songbook or the Great New Zealand Cookbook, whatever I've got with me, and the person's got their arms folded and they're not looking very enthusiastic, I think about Rob Guest. He doesn't then dial his performance back. He gives the same performance because at the end of the night, those people rise, they give him a standing ovation because of what he has delivered to them. And honestly, I've just got so much out of observing world-class, musicians, performers. They give it everything.
It's so impressive, and they can't have a sick day if they're feeling a bit off.
Exactly.
They've still got to get out there and do it. It's like, anytime I come in for a podcast, I'm like, I'm a bit low energy or I feel a bit sick, like, fucking pull your pants up.
Exactly. It's just really, really important. It's just our ability to just take what we have to the market with the passion that it needs every single day.
And having those market advocates, I guess, as well, of those people that are pushing your message on your behalf too, that you've converted into people going, you've got to get the Great New Zealand Cookbook.
Absolutely. That's absolutely, making ambassadors of everybody. Yeah.
So the next project is one I've heard you describe as perhaps your most important or the one you're most proud of, which is The Offering.
Yes.
Which is a huge, decades-long project which came to fruition in 2019. But
correct.
Take us back to the very start of this one.
But see, it's interesting. I'm a manic journaler. I journal a lot. We could talk about that or not. But I don't know how many years ago, 20-odd years ago, I wrote really the idea of the Offering Project. And I said, how amazing would it be if we took the gospel hymns that were written centuries ago and we got the artists of our time to perform them, and then all the money could go to charity. And so, at that time, I just said music to feed the soul, proceeds to help the poor was the first thing I wrote in my thing. And look, me being me, I expected to have it out the following week. This was 20 years ago. But it sort of sat there, and we did the Great New Zealand Songbook, we did the Great New Zealand Cookbook, we did all these projects. And then finally in 2019, we launched the Great New Zealand, the Offering Project. And that was when, just after the mosque shootings, we came out that week and Jacinda Ardern spoke to the nation, and then Holly Smith and Teeks performed Whakaria Mai from our Offering collection. That was a recording that we did. So we got 12 of our top recording artists to perform a gospel hymn, and then we got 12 of our visual artists to paint it. So Dave Dobbin sung Amazing Grace and Dick Frizzell painted it. And, Carl Morn and all the top visual artists came on board. That remains an absolute life highlight for me. I didn't take a penny from that project, and all the money went to the Salvation Army. And my goal is to try and replicate the Offering Project around the world, which is currently very much on the top of my list of things to do.
But again, it's the intricate detail and thought that goes into it that makes it so special. And in the book, you write about why it took so long, and sometimes you'd be going back and forth with artists for years and just waiting. Stan Walker was a good example of what happened there with Stan.
Stan came on board, and then much later changed the hymn that he wanted to do. And so you've just got to flow with the artists, I guess is what I'm saying. They've got to be fully. Artists aren't going to do something unless their heart is fully into it. And particularly with the Offering Project, there's no money. They were bringing their creative gift as an offering. Incredibly generous of them. None of those artists got any royalties from the Offering Project. That was their personal offering. The same with the visual artists. When they painted their works of art, they then presented that as an offering. I think there's something incredibly powerful about that, and I'm very, very proud of that project.
You talk about the journaling, just to loop back, 17 years before the idea came to fruition. Do you pull your old journals out off the shelf and flick through them?
Very, very seldom. But you know, like I was journaling this morning before I got here. It's just like, you know, I think that many years ago, a mate of mine, Mark Houghton, gave me a blank exercise book and wrote, "Hey mate, you know, Merry Christmas. You know, journaling's great. You could start." I thought, I didn't know what to do with that. But I find journaling just putting down how I'm feeling. You know, they say a problem shared is a problem halved. I find when I write something in my journal, the sting or the weight of something will be less as a result of me writing it in my journal. But anyway, you know, all the projects I've written about in my journal and things that are on my mind, etc. Challenges that we're facing. Yeah.
Is it a daily?
No,
you?
it's. I don't ever do it with, like, it's not a calendar. It's not a diary. So, you know, I could go a month without journaling. You know, nobody's going to mark it. Yeah.
Is it without getting into too much of the detail, is it musings on life? Is it thoughts and feelings and
all of that?
Right.
Very much so. And I highly recommend because I think it's a sign of an examined life. You know, like, you know, it really shows, you know, how it is for you. You know, how you're feeling. Just, you know, I guess to express yourself.
It's like a timestamp, right? Of how you.
It is very much so. Yeah.
Can you tie us into the charitable space? Because again, in the book, you write about how you've sort of built up wealth and you're financially set and you like giving back.
I don't think I would have said that I've built up wealth, but carry on.
Okay, my words.
Yeah, you're definitely your words.
I'll take that.
Not mine.
Yeah, okay.
Be very clear on that.
And I'm not sure if these link together, but the Salvation Army and the offering and your charity and why
Yes.
you feel it important to give back,
Yep.
are they linked together?
Definitely. I think that, you know, Anne and I have, you know, we have, you know, I think just to go through life having a heart for others. That's what it's all about, isn't it? You know, and that's just how we have lived and continue to live. But what the Offering Project does is that, like, let's say in my life, I've been able to give away $100. Then if I really worked hard, I might be able to give away another $50 between now and when I die, you know, if I really work hard. What the Offering Project does is it allows us to give away 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars, maybe $100 million if we get it right. So surely my efforts should be in that, you know, because no job is going to pay me enough to be able to give away what the Offering Project has the potential. So, you know, we're now trying to take it to the world and hopefully help countless others as a result of our efforts. But not only help them financially, but help them emotionally, help their own soul. So we want the gospel hymns that have sustained the weary from 2-3 centuries ago to be able to sustain us today and in the time ahead. That is my heart for the Offering Project.
It's an incredibly noble outlook. Is that something which has become stronger as you've gotten older? Or
no, it's always been strong.
It's always been
very strong. Yeah, I don't think it changed at all. Yeah, yeah. Generosity, you know, generosity is just a mark of a person. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, I'm ready to move into some business hacks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right, we've got a few here. So, are you an entrepreneur?
Great question. You know, I've always said that entrepreneur is French for unemployed. And, you know, I've never once called myself an entrepreneur. But I think that my behavior would suggest that I've got entrepreneurial tendencies.
Yeah.
What does your calendar look like? Do you have a daily calendar?
Empty.
Okay.
Empty. So, look, I try not to take any... I try not to fill my calendar at all with anything. So basically, if we're going to have lunch, do you want to have lunch on the 27th or whatever? No, let's talk on the morning of the 27th and then let's have lunch that day. Like I like to live with a calendar that's not got anything in it. Look, if anybody that's got a job is working for this, listening to this, they'll think, "Oh my God, my calendar's just full." But
I'm thinking that.
Yeah, no. I just don't want to have anything in my calendar if I can avoid it. Yeah, that's how I work.
And you've already spoken about the no meetings.
Yeah, well, if we can avoid it, you know, look, meetings should be held over coffee or lunch, you know. And that way you can get to know the person a bit better at the same time rather than just in a terrible office situation where you're wasting everybody's time. I think look, if we're going to respect people, let's not drag them into a room and bore them rigid for an hour. That doesn't show any respect to anybody. If you're going to have a meeting, then boy, make sure it's respectful to everybody that's there, and that they're going to leave better off than when they walked in, which is seldom the case.
What's the phrase? Never chase a dying breeze.
Never chase a dying breeze is. I'm a yachtsman. I've done a lot of sailing. Had some success in sailing. When you go out sailing on the harbour, you might have a 20-knot northerly, which becomes a 10-knot northerly, a 5-knot northerly, and now we're becalmed. Never chase a dying breeze means it's probably not going to come in from the north next time. You need to look for evidence of new breeze. If you're driving over the harbour bridge in Auckland, the flag might be flying and you see there's a westerly filling in, or there might be a bonfire somewhere and you see there's a southerly. We're looking for evidence of new breeze when you go sailing. And so it is with business. In the case of the songbook, with the CD, we could see we were chasing a dying breeze. That business was over. So we're looking for new breeze, and the new breeze in that case was the Great New Zealand Cookbook. So I think for anybody in business, you've got to make sure you're not chasing a dying breeze. You've got to keep looking for where the next breeze is coming from. Where should we be positioning ourselves going forward? Yeah,
these are good, Murray. Keep them coming.
That's why you pay me the big bucks.
Don't eat at your desk.
Don't eat at your desk. That's my only rule in business. I've only got one rule. Don't eat at your desk. Because, look, at the moment I'm working in a big shared office workplace, and you got these people hunched over, their posture's terrible, looking at their computer and not even knowing what they're putting in their mouth. They're not even enjoying. I always get my people to eat together. We sit round the table, we eat our lunch together, and that's how culture is built. It's not built at laser strike or 10-pin bowling. It's built by sitting around the desk and eating with one another. So I just think it's really important.
Yeah, we know that's a trait that's Main Freight have adopted as well with their shared lunchrooms.
Great.
For everyone from the managing director right through to the loaders and the forklift operators.
So
Everybody
great.
Eats together.
So good.
Yeah.
Tell us about honking cards.
Look, honking cards goes way back, but basically that was, I think Saatchi & Saatchi did an advertisement way back in the day where they showed a group of geese, I think, flying together in a V formation, and basically the ones at the bank would honk encouragement so that the ones at the front would keep breaking through. That's where that came from. So I decided that I'd give my people honking cards, meaning if you saw somebody around the office doing something good, you'd fill out a little honking card. Hey, Seamus, I thought, what you did yesterday was awesome, or well done with that customer. So, I don't do it now, but for a time that was a bit of fun.
Was that the same as you would actively sort of send a message to 3 people a day just to let them know they were doing a good job?
Yeah, often I would have done that if I've seen an ad on television. I would write to companies I didn't even know and just encourage them for the work that they were doing. I just think it's great just to appreciate the work that's been done around you. People are doing some great work, but not a lot of people get a lot of encouragement on the way through.
Yeah, that's something that we had Matt Heath on, and that's something that stuck with me from him, is how often you read something or you watch something someone's done and you think, shit, that was pretty cool. Just flick them a text
100%
or send the message.
Yeah.
It means, because when you get at the other side, it makes you feel so good.
It really does. And the whole thing about encouragement, of course, encouragement is the ability to give courage to somebody else. A lot of people are living discouraged lives. In other words, they are not feeling courageous. Any word can give somebody courage. It's so important to be an encourager for another person.
You mentioned sailing.
Yep.
We've just finished the Olympics, time-stamping this.
Yep.
You had an opportunity in 1980 to go, but that was the Olympics, which was boycotted by the Western world. Fast forward, you win a Masters competition, and Hayley Reid told a story of you almost visualizing that.
Oh, yeah.
like at the dinner table.
That was funny.
And now the world champion,
Yeah.
Murray Thom.
So what happened was, I was going to this World Championship in Brazil, and every night, months before, the family would sit at the table, and before I ate, I would stand up and say, and representing New Zealand and the new world champion, Murray Thom. And then I would bow my head as if they were putting the medal around my head. And then I would sit down and we would start eating. And of course, the family, oh my God, are you serious? Like they would just be eating. They're not even listening anymore. But I did it every single night. Of course, I was just doing it as a joke.
Well, I wanted to know that. Was it visualization or was it a gag?
Here's the thing. It was definitely a gag. But it definitely has weight as well, because you're just talking to yourself. But it was just very, very funny. Very, very funny.
So
yeah.
to pull that back, when you're putting a project together like one of these, do you then visualize it going as amazing as they have?
I don't really think about that. I think about the work that we're doing each day with each artist that we might be working, and and just making that as amazing as what it can be. You know, just if we do great work every day, then we're going to have a great production at the end of it to take to the market.
Great work with people you love, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Don't work with idiots. Yeah.
I think it's a great example of the Murray Thom story, that being a world champion sailor is kind of just a footnote. You know, we just mention it and move on.
No, but the thing is, I'm not actually a great sailor. I have had some success at sailing, but listen, I'm not a professional sailor. Yeah.
No, not now.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to land the plane, but I want to talk a bit of family stuff. And in the book, you talk about how Hayley taught you about determination.
Yep.
And what you've learned from your family and your kids.
Well, you know, I'm married to Anne, and I've got three kids. I've got Hayley, Sam, and Sarah. All incredible. They're incredible kids. But I went to one of Hayley's cross countries when she was very young, and watched her, you've got this and all that sort of thing. And I think she came about 30th or whatever it might be. Not a great performance. That was amazing, hon. And she goes, yeah, next year, Dad, I'm going to get on the podium. Yes, of course you are, darling. Of course you are. Let's go and have dinner. And she goes, well, I'm going to start training for it tomorrow. And I'm okay. So anyway, I'm thinking, well, hopefully we'll get over that. Tomorrow morning, she's got her shoes on, runs, wants me to go for a run with her. We go for a run. She runs almost every day. And next year she's on the podium at the cross country. It's just like crazy. So what I'm saying is I find that very inspiring, where the kids like lead the way and they go and they set their mind to something. As it's turned out, I've got three kids who are incredible in their own fields. If I had one word to describe all of them, it would be grit. They've got a lot of grit, these guys. They set goals and they've gone after them, whether it be multi-sport or, Sarah in the medical profession. They've got a lot of grit, and I really admire them for what they've done. Huge. Yeah.
And your your relationship with Anne has stood the test of time as well.
We're still married.
What's the secret behind that success?
Oh my God!
If you could give aspiring Romeos out there a little bit of advice.
Anne and I, of course, have different personalities, but she's just incredibly, she's been an incredible mum to the three kids, but she's also an incredibly kind person. She's just, she's very warm. She creates an incredible home environment. She creates a home which has got a lot of peace. She's a very contented person. She's not a drama. She doesn't create drama, So, we've been fortunate that we've got peace in our home, and I'm very grateful for that.
Sounds like complementary personalities.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Murray, it's been such a cool chat. How have we gone? Have we missed anything?
I'm not going to mention it.
I just want to wrap up by just saying thanks for coming in. It's I feel really honoured when we get to share the space with someone who has so much wisdom to give, because we are starting out as business owners. There's so much advice that we can take from every step of your journey and your story, and the way that your family speaks of you.
Oh, that's very kind. But also, just to finish on you guys, just to take this passion project and turn it into what you're turning, I wanted to congratulate you on that. I know what it takes to take an idea and try and make it fly. So, that's great. And also with the incredible guests that you get on, and therefore the lives that are being changed as a result of the vehicle that you're providing.
Oh, man, that's so nice. Yeah, thank you to who recommended Murray, because it's, like I said at the start, it is a life designed for a long-form pod. Read the book, Eat, Drink and Be Murray. It's an incredible read. I can't recommend it highly enough. Shay, you got an outro?
I'm going to try and come up with something, but I mentioned earlier. I listened to...
Going back to a Subaru and put on the Great New Zealand Songbook.
When I was in my Subaru and I was driving up here, when I was driving up, I was thinking exactly what Stephen said about starting out on a journey of taking an idea and turning it into something. And someone with so many miles on the tread and all of the little nuggets and bits of wisdom along the way, which I say they're wisdom, but they seem like such simple ideas, but you actually have to live them. Yes. And I feel like you've lived them and you talk about them so passionately as well. It's really inspiring to kind of follow that track. And the one thing which really stood out to me, and I had to write it down so I didn't forget it, I think it's with espresso guitar on the inside of the cover, which is...
I didn't even mention espresso guitar. That's fine.
Life is short. We must treasure the memories we have of evenings spent with great friends, great food, and great music.
Amen, brother.
And I think that's just a fantastic way to live your life. I've already sent it to 3 people today.
Oh, wow.
As something that I'd seen and thought, this is so cool. So, yeah, if I can come away with that little mantra, I think, yeah, life is going to be pretty good. And I'm excited about what we've got in the future.
Good job.
Cheers, Murray.
That's
Thanks,
podcast.
guys.